We're so grateful tonight, and we want to acknowledge some of the institutions that have collaborated to make this event possible. We want to thank PBS SoCal, United Production Foundation, and the American Muslim Pathways. The Guelaguetza restaurant that serves you the delicious Oaxacan food tonight, the UCLA Center for Near Eastern Studies, Visual and Sonic Landscapes of Muslim LA, and our host tonight, the UCLA Fowler Museum. Tonight's event is part of the American Muslim Pathways, a public discussion program that aims to open dialogue regarding the impact of Islam and Muslim Americans in America dating back to the 16th century. Inspired by a three-part television series that aired on PBS stations in the summer of 2022 entitled The Great Muslim American Road Trip. This program is building on historical and humanities findings through a nationwide lecture tour at PBS stations and other community venues, such as the one that we're having tonight at the Fowler Museum. We encourage you to visit MuslimPathways.com, where you can listen to lectures from scholars of history and humanities and engage with this educational website. This project is funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities and created and spearheaded by Unity Productions Foundation, a production company specializing in films and outreach programs designed to educate Americans about diverse Muslim experiences and to promote dialogue and understanding across cultures. Thank you so much to Dr. Daniel Tutt, Nashim Rizvi, and Chancey June for leading this national effort and filming the lecture today. If you would like to watch the Great American Muslim Road Trip, you can watch an encore broadcast on PBS SoCal Plus on Monday, August 5th through Wednesday, August 7th at 7 p.m. And you can also stream it online through the PBS SoCal Passport app. Tonight, right now, we would like to welcome our host for the evening, the Fowler Museum. The Fowler Museum explores global arts and cultures, past and present. Please welcome the Fowler Curator of Public Programs, Hannah Yu, to the stage.
Hi, good evening. I am Hannah Yu, Curator of Public Programs at the Fowler Museum. Thank you for joining us this evening of exploration of the historical threads that tie Islamic and Latino cultures, co-hosted with PBS SoCal. We are incredibly grateful for this partnership and to the team that made tonight happen. Special thanks to Desiree Gutierrez, Catherine Weibazal, Emily Moncada. We look forward to future collaborations. I'd like to share a few details about the Fowler's upcoming exhibitions and programs. This past weekend, we opened the first of two Getty Pacific Standard Time art exhibitions, Sandra de Nopal, Blood of the Nopal, Tanya Aguaniga, and Porfirio Gutierrez in Conversation. Sangre de Nopal is a multi-site project offering an expanded understanding of the scientific and indigenous origins of cochineal, a red dye developed by the Zapotec peoples. We are planning a dynamic calendar of public programs in the fall involving conversations with the artists and also programs centering on our two other exhibitions in the galleries, Descanse en Paz memorial paintings from 19th century Mexico, currently on view, and Taming the Desert, Resilience, Religion, and Ancestors in Ancient Peru, opening on November 10th. So please stay tuned, sign up for our newsletter, and visit the Fowler's website for more information. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Visual Sonic Landscapes team, Amy Landau, Adina Lekovich, Francesca Albrezzi, and Jonathan Gold to the stage for a short presentation on their project. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Amy Landau. I'm the Director of Education and Interpretation here at the Fowler Museum. Thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to see so many of you come out tonight. I wish to also begin by extending a very warm note of gratitude to the PBS team, namely Desiree Gutierrez, Emily Moncada, and Catherine Weibazal. I also wish to thank my wonderful colleague, Badma Bitik, who's the Assistant Director of UCLA's Center for Near Eastern Studies, and of course the Fowler's Curator of Public Programs, who you just heard from, Hannah Yu, who helped organize tonight's event. We're very excited to briefly introduce an ongoing Fowler project that may be of interest to today's audience, which is entitled Visual and Sonic Landscapes in the City of Angels. This initiative is created to share the lived experiences of faith-based communities and cultural expressions of spirituality across Los Angeles through sights and sounds. We believe that these manifestations embody individual and group values, ideologies, and worldviews. Often central components of lived religion, visual and oral practices are visible and tangible forms of belief. We envision that the website that you'll be introduced to today we imagine it to be an ever-expanding resource for students, faculty, and for K through 12 classrooms, helping them engage with the histories and current realities of LA's religious communities. Our first project is Visual and Sonic Landscapes of Muslims in Los Angeles, which has been made possible by the generous support of the Henry Luce Foundation, the Lilly Endowment, and UCLA's Chancellor's Art Initiative. Visual and Sonic Landscapes of Muslims in Los Angeles was born out from really a wonderful collaboration between UCLA's Islamic Studies program that has been led by Professor Asma Saeed and the Fowler Museum. And I also would like to thank the current head of the department, Luke Yarborough, who's with us tonight. Together, we've had the good fortune to launch the Community Bridges Residency with Adina Lekovic, who you see right here on the screen, as the inaugural community scholar. And I have to send Adina's regrets that tonight, unfortunately, she's home with COVID, but she extends her warmest greetings to you all. And she really has been the backbone of this project. As a community scholar in residence, Adina completed dozens of oral interviews with local Muslim communities. As you can see here on this screen, she sought out community elders to speak with about their personal histories and worked with UCLA students to record a number of multi-generational interviews, offering mentorship for students interested in Islamic studies and community-engaged scholarship. The team, with the Islamic Studies and the Fowler, also convened a series of community conversations. Further, based on Adina's research, a timeline of Muslim life in Los Angeles from the 1950s until the present day was defined. The research team identified over 80 sites to place on the Visual and Sonic Landscapes map, including mosques, schools, public art, community organizations, and of course, restaurants. The team also created a wonderful playlist of Muslim musicians and podcasters. All of this was then brought together by a digital team led here by my wonderful colleague, Francesca Abrezzi, who is out of the Office of Advanced Research Computing, and she works with me closely on establishing a digital learning footprint here at the Fowler Museum. So I'm going to turn it over to Francesca now.
It's so wonderful to be with you all tonight. So the research team provided obviously a very rich source of content for us to work with. And our team collaborated to provide a digital outcome that fit with the project's ideals and goals. We designed a custom static platform that incorporates an interactive map, which you can see here on the screen, media-rich timelines, and filterable views of hundreds of visual and sonic media materials. The digital archive also contains bibliographical information of participants, transcripts, indexical information, and related media for the dozens of oral histories conducted by Adina and her student teams. In addition, the site builds connections between oral histories and the map of Muslim sites within the greater Los Angeles area. Designed in a simple and templated way with future growth and partnership in mind, we hope that other university classes, especially courses dedicated to Muslim histories and community-engaged scholarship, could add content to the platform as an ever-growing resource for Los Angeles history. We hope that you will take a moment to stop by our table in the back here on the right and explore the site for yourself. You can also find it on the Fowler Museum website under the Educational Projects and Initiatives page. And we look forward to seeing you and speaking with you more about the project outside. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the speakers we had tonight: Amy Landau, Hannah Yu, Francesca Albrezzi, and Jonathan Gould. It's my distinct honor to welcome our keynote lecturer for this evening, Dr. Mariam Saada. Dr. Mariam Saada is an educator, researcher, public speaker, and mother of 3 children. She was born in Paris, France, and she speaks 5 languages: French, Arabic, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. She earned her PhD from UCLA in Spanish linguistics from the Hispanic Languages and Literatures Department. She has a double master's in Spanish and in education, and her BA is in Spanish. She has a passion for the Spanish language to the extent of dedicating her whole career to finding the connections between the Arab, Islamic, and Hispanic cultures and civilizations. She completed her postdoctoral in Mexico as a resident scholar through the University of California, Riverside in 2016, examining traces of Arabic and Islam in 17 archives in the Mexican Republic. Since then, she dedicated herself to publishing her findings and creating a database for the Islamic and Arabic documents found in Mexico and Latin America. Her book, Allah, Hashem, Dios, El Español no está en Español, was published by Duncan Publishers in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Her documentary, Ojalá Supieras, is written to convey her research findings from the Mexican archives regarding Islamic or Arabic presence in New Spain or colonial Mexico between 1570 and 1820. Finally, she is putting together an exhibit called Forgotten Footprints to showcase all her research findings at the National Museum of the Cultures of the World, located behind the Presidential Palace in the heart of Mexico City. Can you please join me in welcoming Dr. Saada?
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be back at UCLA, place that has a very dear place in my heart. I'm a fellow Bruin. Spent 9 years of my life in all the libraries and researching. I wouldn't be here today without UCLA's contribution in my life. So I'm very happy to be here tonight. I'm happy to share with you, this is my lifetime passion. This is something I do because it just gives me a strong purpose and a strong desire to really connect the dots. So I'm here tonight to inspire you and pass on this passion to you so that you can feel what I feel and maybe join this research. Let me start with a TikTok that was recently published by the National Archives of Mexico City, where they interviewed me as a scholar. They just wanted to know why I'm so interested in their archive.
Mi nombre es Mariam Saada, soy filóloga de Historia de la Lengua Española de la Universidad de California en Los Ángeles y mi postdoctorado lo completé en el cine con la Universidad de UC Riverside y por eso que yo estoy en México. Mi línea de investigación es sobre la presencia de la lengua árabe o del Islam durante la época colonial. Esa investigación nació posterior a mi trabajo doctoral, que fue sobre documentos históricos en España, en los archivos de la Biblioteca Nacional de Madrid. Así que es una continuación de algo que yo había empezado y me llevó a la Nueva España, de España a la Nueva España, y a buscar esos personajes históricos que maravillosamente encontré. Después de años de investigación, he podido clasificar esa documentación en 3 categorías. Entonces, una categoría ha sido documentos, edictos o leyes que durante la colonia han mencionado la presencia de la prohibición de, por ejemplo, musulmanes, Corán, etcétera, Mahoma, etcétera. Entonces, esto ha sido una rama, una de esas ramas de los documentos. La otra han sido casos inquisitoriales donde la persona acusada tenía algo que ver con Islam de manera directa o indirecta. El tercer grupo de documentación es producido por musulmanes, para musulmanes. Entonces, el lector y el autor pues, se dirige a lo mismo. Y esto ha sido muy interesante también encontrar esta clase de documentación porque era como no solamente la visión del Estado o la visión de la Iglesia o la Inquisición, sino que también si hay algo propio que muestra un sabor lingüístico, una historia, narrar su parte. He tenido la gran suerte de caer aquí en el Archivo General de la Nación porque el trato ha sido maravilloso. El hecho de que los documentos eran accesibles en otros archivos bloquean el acceso. En otros archivos no te dejan entrar con lo que necesitas como investigadora para documentar. La falta de, por ejemplo, aquí me dejan entrar con computadora, teléfono, puedo escribir, tomar mis apuntes, es muy eficiente. Y también el número de documentos que puedo consultar, comparado con otros archivos, como por ejemplo en España, donde me limitaban 3 documentos al día, aquí yo tenía 25 al día. Entonces, imagina el volumen de trabajo y la calidad de trabajo y la eficiencia. Entonces, alguien como yo que viene como investigadora internacional, viene a México, quizá mi tiempo es limitado, quiero maximizar esa experiencia. Ese archivo me ha dado verdaderamente me ha apoyado para tener lo que tengo ahora. Y por supuesto tienen sus medidas muy estrictas de entrada, o sea, es como cualquier otro archivo, vigilan y miran y tienen todo derecho de proteger el tesoro nacional, pero a pesar de todo eso, siguen dando la flexibilidad de acceso y todo eso, y eso es admirable y espero que nunca cambie. Todo el mundo es muy amable, todos, tengo muchos amigos, ustedes son lo máximo.
All right. So this was just it came out like about a month ago after an interview with the National Archives. So tonight I'd like to find the connections that I share with you the connections that I found between Islamic cultural connections with the Latino or Spanish speaking world. So it all began with a curiosity I had, linguistic research. So when I joined UCLA, for 2 years, I was just creating lists and doing tables and working on gathering information. How many words? What are those kind of words? How can I classify those words? How can I organize them? What do I understand? Why those words specifically came in? And that took quite a chunk until I actually started asking the question of the who instead of the what words, but who are those speakers that were bilingual, trilingual, multilingual, who were able to do this kind of language borrowing, bring words from Arabic. So I invite you tonight with me to decolonize specifically Mexican identity through my archival work. I would like to deconstruct the narrative that was depicted because that's the narrative that I learned, and that's the vision that I had. And my struggles in my research were basically because I was carrying all the information that I knew with me, but the archives did not meet me where my information went. So I remember very well I asked questions at the archive. Does the archive make history or does history make the archive? So what do I know about external history is what's going to make me understand the documents I find, or are the documents I find really going to narrate and tell me the story? And so I do remember what they told me precisely. They said the archives makes the history. So they made my job really difficult because what I found in an archive did not match what I knew in like external history, and that made me do the extra work. So because I had to explain now and go and find a different perspective. So I'd like to demystify a few things that came along in my path. One of them is that European Islam was a possibility. Like, it was very interesting to see that, Spanish Muslims was a possibility, and there is no clash of civilization that had or wanted to see it. Like, it was through that lens of a clash. My documents did not back up any clash. Also, my document shows a lot of different identities. So this identity that I thought of as, oh, the Spanish identity is homogeneous and it has to be by default Catholic, not really met me there at the archives either. Another one that was huge was conquest, reconquest, conquista, reconquista. The idea that the whole encounter of, the Spanish Muslim history is like they met in the battlefields, and all the numbers that you need to recognize are who won what battle in what year. So yeah, I was very well versed in those topics historically, but those again did not meet me at the archives. The other one is the reflection on the model language faith. I studied that model to understand the connection because you see, I was trying to see two things. Am I looking at Arabization or am I looking at Islamization, and are they the same thing? And because my biggest quest was, how is it possible that the Arabic language was part of the Iberian Peninsula for all these years as an alive language used on a daily basis, and the language died? So I looked at all the theories of language death and see if what I can pick up from these theories to help me understand the language death process. And is language tied to faith? So is it the same thing as Arabization, as Islamization? So when the language dies, the faith also dies? So also people are no longer Muslim because they're no longer Arabic or have access to the Arabic language? These are big questions that were leading this research. And then finally, I think the biggest mystery for me was the naming. I struggled so much in archives and research because if I put the term Arabic in as a keyword for search engine, or Islam or Muslim or Musulman or Mor or any of those terms, I get zero in the search engine. There's nothing. So I had to learn all the different terminology of the time of how they used to be called in order to actually find them. And it was just a stroke of luck. I think the first document led me to the second document, the second document led me to the third, and then I was on a chain reaction. So one of the things, the visuals, I wanted just to share with you. Today in Mexico, every August, at the end of August, there's the whole town in Zacatecas dresses up as Muslim and Christian and reenact, a whole battle. And I was very intrigued by, why are we in this century still dressing up in this, why are we recollecting, why are we remembering something so historical that is kind of meaningless nowadays, especially that we know that the Muslims lost. So what's the fun part? Okay, we already know who won the battle. Why are we recreating the battle? Why are we trying to remember something? So I went around asking people who specialize in dance and music and art, and asked them, why do you guys wear those masks? And why are the masks having a beard and those big eyes? And why, there's a specific mask you see in my hand is half Muslim, half devil. So I wanted to know, why is it demonized? Who needs that demonization image? Why is it even relevant? So I have a lot of questions. I don't have too many answers, but I have a lot of questions. So one of the things that really, also one of the intriguing parts was naming. Why would Santiago, be Matamoros? Why would he be interested in killing Muslims? Why is this his nickname? So Santiago's the apostle, from first century Jesus, and all of a sudden his reliquias, his rests or bones, are discovered in Compostela, And people are doing from France, walking over, doing Camino Santiago, just remembering Santiago. And he's, of course, the hero of the Reconquest. And he's the reason why, this whole march, in Europe, obviously the Crusaders, etc. But like this is very much part of this and part of the Spanish, pre 1492 idea, and even after, because when Spaniards come to the Americas, they call in Peru, he's called Santiago Mata Indios, for example. So he's still somehow, poor guy, he's responsible for a lot of, he has no idea that this is what's happening with him, but that's exactly what happened to Santiago. So, and I want you to remember Santiago because one of my characters, his name is Santiago. One of the biggest image I needed to deconstruct in my mind, because that's the image that was driving my research, it's basically that Isabel and Fernando in 1492 were able to, after the conquest of Granada, basically the Muslims are no more. It's either they all died, they left, they're refugees somewhere, I don't know, they all converted. We don't know, like it's just this big mystery of what happened to, again, remember I'm a linguist and I'm coming from a linguistic point of view. So I'm really not looking for the people, but I'm looking for language. You have to remember that I'm trying to trace language and understand why language died. That was really the driving force. So one of the things that I had to understand that whatever information I have came from the conqueror and came after this new definition of España. So obviously everything from that past is going to have to be really, it's like looking for a needle. It's like looking for a needle, yes. All right, so after 1492, there was a whole agenda of identity transformation that was designed to restructure the entire society. This multi-religious, multicultural, multilingual panorama needed to change. So multi-religious, you had Jewish communities, Muslim communities, Christian communities. You have multilingual, you have in Spain today, languages are still alive. Catalan, Gallego, Asturiano, all these languages are still alive, but not Arabic. All right, so I wanted to, again, remember I'm chasing language death. So I wanted to understand this. Okay, so there's one faith now accepted. The language of the language that's going to be imposed is the Castellano as the language of this unifying language to all the different states. Then the race, they wanted to prove that for 3 generations you don't have any Jewish or Muslim blood in you. So therefore there was like a certificate you had to buy at the church, limpieza de sangre. One nation now, you're just uniting, and obviously if you were ex-Muslim, you would be called Morisco, and if you're ex-Jewish, you'd be called Converso, and if there's worse terms than that, let's not get into that. But anyways, Spain united. The same time that Spain is united, right before there's basically an institution set in place. This institution is called Santo, but it has nothing to do with, there's nothing holy about this office, Holy Office of the Inquisition. Please don't get fooled by terminology. Inquisition is a very good word. I am an inquisitive person. I consider myself to have lots of questions and not too many answers. But this is not what you think it is. So the Holy Office of the Inquisition is basically a court system that was designed as a church kind of court that is designed to see how authentic your faith is. So I need to know if your heart is pure. I don't know what they're thinking. How can you know what's in my heart? But somehow they had it. So for that, they grab a bunch of witnesses. You're not allowed to get an attorney. You pay for your own jail. You pay for your own food inside. You are an interesting character if there's wealth behind you. If you happen to have no wealth, then basically you're not an interesting character. So I was looking at my characters. Again, I'm looking to see who are those people who are doing this language transfer. Remember, I'm looking for language. So this institution lasted in Spain, 354 years. So I asked myself the question, what are they doing for 354 years? They're done, right? Aren't they? Everybody's on a ship somewhere, converted, died, whatever. Like, why would they still be hunting down people for that long? Like, really? And are you finding anything? So this is the panorama in Spain. And what I knew about Spain, I had to borrow this information and take it with me to New Spain. So in Spain, they had 17 Inquisition tribunals and Spain is a very small territory. Well, when they cross over the Atlantic Ocean, they think this is a very good institution to carry along with them. So remember, it's coming with us to New Spain. So I looked at this. I'm not a historian, but I had to study history. Like if I'm going to do historical linguistics, I better know my history and my facts. And again, who won what battle in what year? That was not my point. I was trying to figure out the history of the people who actually spoke language, carried language, and did the language borrowing and all the ideas that came with language. So one of the things that was very interesting for me is it took, if you look at the date, 711 to 1492, it's 781 years. So it took 781 years to have this Islamic presence, politically speaking, in Spain, and another 354 to undo it. So basically, what I was trying to understand is we're going to need 354 to undo 781. Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
I hope I didn't lose anyone. And then after that, Americans, after that, when there is like, again, when I say death, I'm looking at political, like there's no more politically, they're not here. But also, this is the same year that Columbus, gets to this side of the world. So guess what? Who's going to want to run away from Spain at that time? That was a question I had. So I focused on this side of the painting. And it was very hard to focus on this side of the painting because, again, remember, terminology was tricky. So at some point, they're called moros when they have political control. They're called mudéjar when they are losing their political control but still live in Christian land and still allowed to live under Christian king. They're called morisco when they're no longer allowed to be Muslim, when Islam is kind of prohibited and you have to convert by force. So I have to understand the terminology. When is the terminology used? So if after this mass baptism 1501, now everybody's called morisco in Spain. Remember, there's going to be a bunch of other terminology when we cross the Atlantic Ocean. So basically, they're the Christianized Muslims or crypto. They were practiced. This is the beginning of crypto Islam. Basically, crypto Islam or crypto Judaism is the idea that socially you manage yourself as a Catholic, but when you come home, you have a different identity and you practice your own thing. So basically, you're living a double life. And crypto Islam was practiced in Spain. And the reason I'm going to give you quickly why it was actually practiced for a long time in Spain is because the Moriscos went to the Sultan and for the Ottoman Empire and they complained. They we have a situation in Spain and they're not allowing us to be Muslims. And he promised them that he was marching through the European territory towards their liberation. So he's like, I'm coming, just keep it quiet, go hush hush, and when I'm ready, you will be liberated. And obviously, no one knew Vienna would come and they would be stopped in Vienna, the Ottomans, and then there's no more marching. This crypto Islam was already practiced for like centuries, so it was too late to go back on practicing crypto Islam. It was part of, and then the crypto Jews were side by side, so it was just a very interesting social dynamics. I put together a theory for this called social mask, where I felt like the people who were actually caught were the bad actors in the story. And if you were a good actor, no one would ever know you were even part of that story. Spain, again, there was a destruction of public baths in the 1500s, converting all the mosques into churches, mezquita, iglesia. And then, again, I'm looking for the language. Remember, I'm hunting text. So burning the Arabic language started in 1526. I wanted to know which texts were burned, why are they burned, where were they burned. I'm looking for, again, any remnants of writing, documents. So we have this burning of the text in the 1500s and 1600s. We have an official end of the Muslim presence by Spanish government declaring we have expelled the Moriscos 1609 to 1614. They're gone. No more. It's over. Okay, so well, I felt like they're all gone, but I didn't realize migration was not for everybody. It was just for men. Women and children were not allowed to leave. So it was very interesting. I said, wow, okay, so it's not everybody had to go. They actually they put the men on a ship and, sent them over to the Mediterranean or, Pacific Ocean, whatever, or the Atlantic. They just had to go and navigate somewhere. 1500s, I am here at UCLA and I'm searching in Spain documents. I look at these incredible documents in Biblioteca Nacional in Madrid. I find this genre of writing that's fantastic, fascinating, Arabic writing, yet the content is all Spanish. Of course, this was a gem. I fell in love with this. I was like, I need to understand this and look at it and read it and study it. And this is my baby that I left here at the library at UCLA when I graduated. And then after I graduated, I was offered a postdoctoral fellowship through UC Mexas, UC Riverside. And I was, like a exchange scholar. I went to Mexico researching the National Archives. And when I was in the National Archives, my fellow researchers, they tell me, oh, you're looking for Arabic? You should be in Guadalajara. Why are you here? Oh, you're looking for Arabic? Puebla is the place to be. Oh, why are you here? You should go to Oaxaca. This is where you can find Arabic texts. Because they're like me, hunting down texts in archives. So basically, it was very organic research. And I'm a friendly person. I made lots of friends. So everybody was pointing me in different directions and I pick up their direction. New Spain is not what we think of it today as the Mexican territory. Instead, it's really southern U.S., Mexico, Guatemala, and all the way to the Philippines. And so this entire territory had one Inquisition tribune. And Latin America has three throughout the territory. So there's another one in Cartagena, Colombia, and another one in Lima, Peru. And you can imagine I'm very inspired to go and research those archives. I want to continue the story. So New Spain is a territory that was explored starting 1501 with Hernán Cortés. And then one of the things that was intriguing is Muslims were not allowed to cross the Atlantic Ocean. This was a forbidden crossing. If you were Muslims in any way, you were not you could not even get on the port of Sevilla or get on a ship or even imagine going there. So my question was how did this forbidden crossing happen? So the presence of Islam or Muslims in the diaspora of New Spain was demonstrated to me through different things. So I looked at, as you saw in my TikTok, I looked at edicts, laws that were issued during that time, and I was very I'm asking questions to the expert. Why do we have laws to ban Islam and Muslims if they don't exist? And I found 280 laws in 250 years. And I asked the question, why are we banning something that doesn't exist? Are they here? Are they not here? Why do you take the time to write and document and manuscripts and then print and then publish and then preserve it in archives? Why? I also found lots of edicts to ban Quran. I said, wow, wait a minute. Was it Quran here too? Did they have it here? And then Inquisition cases. So I started looking at Inquisition cases, and I was looking only at the 1500s because I said, in my imaginary idea of the external history, I said, this is how it's going to go. Okay, so I walked in with a hypothesis and I was trying to prove my hypothesis, and I was so excited about it. My hypothesis was, if I find Muslims in New Spain, it's going to be a lot of cases at the beginning, and then slowly but surely they're going to disappear in the archives. By the 1800s, no more. Well, obviously, I was wrong. Everything I imagined was not true. 1500s, very few cases. 1600s, it's going up. 1700s, there's a boom. I don't know what's going on. I went to specialists in Mexico asking them, what's going on in the 1700s, you guys? Why is there a boom in Muslim presence in the 1700s? And then it wasn't until at the archives when they offered me a document in the 1800s, and I said, whoa, I'm not touching 1800s. That is too far out. That's not something I can even handle. Don't give me 1800s, please. I can't handle that. Because 1800s is basically like independence of, the time of independence of Mexico from Spain. I said, you're not going to go that far. No, this is too intense for me. And sure enough, my most interesting document is the end of the Inquisition. Because that guy, Santiago Calderon, walks in and says, I'm Muslim. Like page 1 in the document says, I'm Muslim, please burn me with green wood. I was shocked. I was like, he's not even trying to deny it. He's not trying to say no. He's not trying to do anything. He's just like, here it is. This is the most upfront document. And so this was wild. Here's the National Archive. This is hall number 4. You can imagine I was hibernating in that place. Okay, so this is my feature, or this is my little guy. Like you can see my lots of zeros, right? So every time I do a search something for a word that I think I know, it's always a 0. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Until I hit the... I got lucky with my first document. So my first documents, I found that they're called seguidores, seguidores de la secta de Mahoma. And I said, oh, wow, that's interesting. And then in that same document, they called them Mahometanos, Mahometizantes, Mahomedes. I found a little bit of Moro and Mudéjar, not too much. Then they're called Turcos, they're called the Turks, you can imagine, Ottomans. Then they're called Saurillas, people who do black magic. Then they're called Ismailitas, for some reason. Sarracenos are like very interesting terms. Andalucíes, Elches. I never expected that Muslims were called Elches or hijos de Elches. And I figured that must be an insult. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound very good. So, bereberes, bereberiscos, agareños. I mean, I was really just collecting these terms. Together, I come up with 35 terms. And I ask myself, why do we go so, why do we have to beat around the bush so much to refer to the same people? And then I looked at Muhammad. I said, maybe I'm going to find Muhammad somehow. So, or Mahoma or something. And obviously I was wrong. So I found Maometi, Maometu, Maometu, Maometikam, Maometani, Maometanum. I was like, who is making up all these terms? Like, this is incredible. So here it is, my corpus of documentation. I put it together. This is just my small classification to kind of maneuver the documents I was looking at. So the legal documents or the edicts, big, gigantic documents that were put in the plaza to tell you if in this town you find any Muslim, you report them, da da da. Too many of them, very interesting. Then I get the church documents. Okay, who are those people? And I didn't believe any of this, believe it or not. When I looked at the edicts, I said, well, they're banning it. Doesn't mean anything. Okay, Inquisition cases. Again, it's the church telling me, what if they're imagining they're Muslims, but they're not really Muslim? It wasn't until I found the documents by Muslims for Muslims that I actually felt I have something in my hands. So all of this was just like me kind of imagining, but things started to land when I found my first document. There's a lot of first documents. So here are my edicts, okay? These are my edicts, libros prohibidos. I'm trying to have you appreciate the size of the documents. 2-3 people need to help me out to carry this document, okay? And of course, look at that smile. I'm like in heaven here, you know what I mean? I'm enjoying this moment, all right? This is when I found the Inquisition cases. And so they were calling them the Malvada Secta de Mahoma, or Al Corán de Mahoma era bueno, somebody they caught in the Inquisition who said the Quran was a good textbook, and or a good book to read, or El Profeta Mahoma, it was good, or something. I'm just searching and fishing for these documents. And then I found the Arabic documents. Like again, I'm looking for language, chasing language death. I want to know what happened to language. So this is a letter that was sent from a nephew to his uncle in the Inquisition jail. What's interesting is the letter has a date. It's 1743, 1700s. It's kind of late for me. I don't want to find something in the 1700s, but it's not. I don't dictate what to find in the archives. So this is the document really that I told you was the turning point. was a document that I know the original one in Spain. There are 3 original documents, and I found the 4th one in New Spain. And I was very surprised that this is called Breviario Sunni. Breviario is a manual, and Sunni has nothing to do with Sunna and Shia, nothing to do. Sunni is basically, it's the tradition of how to practice. It's a manual on how to practice Islam in the Spanish language. So what do you do in Ramadan? What do you do for prayers? What do you do for washing? What do you do for this? What do you do for that? And I found the opposite linguistic phenomena that I was looking at in Spain, which is Arabic written, Spanish written with Arabic text. Here I found Arabic written in Latin script. So of course, this was a hallelujah moment for me, because this is like as wild as language can get. This is Arabic written in Latin script. And so I was reading it, and everybody in the archives, I had everybody come around me. They're trying to see, can you understand this? Do you understand this? And it was it's amazing that I was able to find this. And then I went to, this was another, archive, and I found this codice, this book of images and drawings, 1520, 1544. And I was looking at images of the conquistador, and I was just like so surprised. Why do they have a turban? Why do they have a beard? Why are they similar to the mask that you just use in your dance? Why do they have all those fingers up? And then, of course, if you are Muslim and you're looking at this finger, it's the monotheism, the finger that we use for prayer. And then the beads, it was 33 beads. I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this. The guy in the hat is Muslim, and the guy in the turban is Muslim. Oh my God. So I was looking at the beads, and, I'm analyzing what's going on. Anyways, from all of this came the birth of 2 projects that I have a big passion for. The first one is a documentary, because I visited different architectural sites and in Mexico, and different architectural sites. When I take out my phone and I have an app that shows me the direction of Mecca for prayer, well, the site is in the direction of Mecca, and it doesn't fail. Every time I was like, and so I went to this place in Puebla, and the priest told me it's called a crypto mosque. And I said, what's a crypto mosque? He said, oh, it's a church, but really it's a mosque. And I said, what do you mean by it's really a mosque? He's like, well, we all know it's a mosque, but it's really a church. So again, I took out my phone, and he asked me to confirm, and I confirmed it for him. I said, yes, it is in the direction of Mecca, and yes, I guess it's a mosque. Okay. And then there's another place in south of Mexico City that has that minaret. And believe it or not, I went inside. It's a monastery with all the nuns, and I became friends with the nuns there. And I asked them, hey, can I be hosted here? They said, no, it's closed. We don't allow outsiders. I said, can I take a picture of your minaret? They said, no, it's not a minaret, it's la torre. And I said, no, it's a minaret. It's an Islamic minaret. I just want to know if this place was a mosque. They're like, no, it's a monasterio. I'm like, I got you. It's a monastery, but it really looks like a minaret. It's octagonal. It has the picture is missing the half moon on top, so it does have the moon on top. So it's wild. You walk, it's like you see it, but you don't. But it's not there. So conclusions. One of the things that I at first, this research was kind of heavy, because I was like, why is so much rejection, or so much why so much dirt put on this history, and I realized that no, I should see it from the perspective of the documents. There's no point in seeing victimization here, because actually the strength of these people is that they were facing some challenges at attempts to delete identities, but then they actually succeeded because they erased their own footsteps. So here's the challenge of this research. How do I find people whose success is to survive or delete themselves in order to exist? How do I find them? That was the very difficult question. And they basically left traces in culture, traces in different parts of the different tangible elements. However, they erased their own steps. So one of my biggest takeaways is this is a story of the pueblo, the people, not a story of winners and losers on battlefield. And I like that. So I put together an idea for an exhibit called Forgotten Footprints. And in this exhibit, basically, what I'm trying to show is all the architectural sites, some of the pictures. Thank you so much for having them outside. That show you different sites and different, geometrical shapes. So basically, Islamic architecture is called colonial architecture. So when you hear colonial, it's really Islamic architecture. But they won't call it Islamic because nothing Islamic can be beautiful. That's the point. I think it's a very harsh point to take home, but I understand the history behind it because it took a long time. Like it came as a history of putting, a lot of undoing. So I put together two timelines. One, my own timelines, not the ones that I knew from external history. I had to create my own timelines. One of them is what happened in Mexico during colonial time that would indicate anything happening to the documents. And then all the different characters I found, I put together the main important stories of who they were in the years to understand, like, if there's any link. And I talked to scholars in Mexico, specifically in La UNAM. There's a scholar who specializes in Islam in Mexico, and he's been publishing all these years to say that there isn't any trace, like they don't exist. It's like the phantasma or like the ghost of history. And I was trying to ask him how he built his hypothesis. How did he build that it was a ghost all these years? And he said, "Well, I never went to the archives, so I never done this work. So I don't have the information that you have. And even if I do, I don't have the background that you have. I don't understand Islamic history. I don't understand Islamic tradition. I don't know the Arabic. It would be an obstacle. Like, I need to know so many things in order to even get close to this kind of work. Yet, he's the specialist on Islam in Mexico. So it's very interesting, right? So basically, I looked at all these different lives and I picked 5 different stories that were most powerful. One of them is Maria Ruiz, who is from Granada. She gets on the boat and goes to Mexico City. Surprisingly, she self-denounces herself, meaning she's the only one in the Inquisition who goes to tell them, I am, telling on myself. So she tells on herself, but apparently she's telling on herself to protect her whole family and to protect her family in Granada. So she does that, and you would think that she told on herself that she's done. She happened to have a lot of wealth. She's the only one who pays her way out. So she pays 200 coins, and then they let her go. Very interesting. So I was very intrigued by Maria Luis because she wanted to turn herself in, and then she decided to. Then she paid to walk. Like, she was allowed to pay, which is very unusual, because basically the premise in the Inquisition was that torture devices were not. The people would just like die on those torture devices, so therefore there's no bloodshed, so therefore it's okay. That's the logic behind it. And when the person dies in those devices, basically the church inherits their estate. So it was a wealth transfer kind of business. Interesting. Well, I thought the Inquisition in Mexico, I was very surprised also that Inquisition in Mexico, you would think it's going after the indigenous community because, wow, they're coming to do the evangelical, they have an agenda to make everybody become Catholic, and, all these native tribes in the Americas were the target of, evangelical, mission coming to do this work. Well, they were exempt from the Inquisition. So again, I went to the specialists and I asked them, if the indigenous communities are exempt, who are you after? Who are you choosing? Who are you trying to find? Thank you so much. Forgotten Footprints.
Thank you so much. Dr. Sada, that was amazing, and I learned so much. And I actually have so many questions for you, and I'm sure many of you do as well. We are right now. We're gonna move. We're going to go into the reception part. Um, I actually just wanted, if you don't mind, I was so moved by what you said. I saw a lot of the names in the beginning, and it makes me. My husband's mother's name, my mother-in-law's name was Alfaro, and that would probably be have some Islamic, yeah. And it's really interesting because my husband's Mexican and a convert to Islam too, and so it's just interesting how we're like slowly uncovering that for ourselves. So thank you for sharing that. It's very meaningful for us. Thank you. Um, so right now we're going to invite you all to join us in the amphitheater and to continue the conversation. I know many of you have a lot of questions like I do and you'd like to share. We're not going to do a Q&A here, but you can continue the conversation outside. We're going to have refreshments out there for you, as well as an opportunity for you to view some of the photos that you saw Dr. Shada had in her showcase, which includes the architecture she saw and many of the other things that were presented here. So feel free, you can ask questions to her out there and to any of the other people in Muslim Pathways. And again, we're so grateful to you all for coming out today. In particular, thanking PBS SoCal for all their hard work in putting together this event. So thank you so much, and assalamu alaikum.